Well, Gemma, Corrie is back on track this week, I have to say.
Great job, everybody.
Goodness. I don't know whether I'm just like pleased or relieved or what, but yeah, I enjoyed Coronation Street this week. I kind of got the notes ready before we started to watch tonight's episode, and I was going to talk about this. Suggest we talk about the stories in a certain order, and I've put the Geoff and Yasmin story right up to the top after tonight's episode, and they were like languishing down in like 4th or 5th position, but I think after tonight's turn of events, I think there's stuff to talk about there.
Certainly is, Michael, and thanks for introducing that topic. Yes, because we've got to talk about some terrible things that happened.
Murder, most fowl. Thank you to Christy on Twitter giving us that pun.
Christy_P83.
That's an amazing pun. I enjoy that. That Geoff. Once we've talked about that, we're going to talk about the Abby and Ray storyline, and I've got a new storyline title for that as well.
Go on.
Ray's hell. That does make it sound like it's a situation that's bad for Ray.
No, it sounds to me like he owns hell.
Okay, Ray's hell.
Yeah.
Then we've got the Desperate for Dan storyline / Adam and Sarah wedding storyline, which I do have a storyline title for this week, which didn't before. We're going to call that one Something Old, Something New, Something Scottish and Sarah Lou. We've got another new story in the Ken and Peter and Tracy stuff, looking out for number 1.
Yeah.
And then they're kind of the main bits of the week. We'll get then onto the quadranglers, although it's a bit more about Deaf Aled this week, wasn't it? Can we call it Aledal hard of hearing? Yeah, why not? And then we had a little bit of bailout as well at the beginning of the week. So, Gemma, would you like me to synopsise the Murder Most Fowl story?
I am literally in the midst, as you can tell, of using my phone, but I'm using it for a very specific
What are you doing?
podcast-related reason. I'm ordering that book. Why does he do that?
Okay.
You remember I told everybody about this book?
Yeah.
Why does he do that inside the minds of controlling men?
Why do you need to order
Because
it?
I can't read it on my phone. I just don't have the patience.
You need a proper book. You need to do it old school.
That Pat Phoenix autobiography, I've gone through that really quickly because I've got it in my hands and I can go, oh look, there's that book, I'll read that again. Okay. So I'm going to do my homework and come to the next, and I'll also annotate it and stuff. And
why does he do that? Explain why he murders my pet chickens.
I hope there's an entire section about that, in the book. If not, I'll send it back to Amazon.
Poultry brutality.
Oh gosh. Look, making light of it. We know this is a serious subject, but you have to indulge us, our puns and stupidity.
My puns
not every day
stupidity.
You get to see somebody's pet chicken being
cooked for dinner. Well, it did remind me a little bit, and it made me think about how times have changed, because there was that scene once back in the 80s, I think it was, that Vera pretended to have cooked Jack's chickens. She serves him up a pigeon pie, and he's aghast at this, but she's not really done it. And she did also, I think, I'm right in saying, stuff his favourite chicken, Fergie, after she died. So, I mean, back in...
taxidermy style?
Yes.
Okay.
Not with Paxa. So back then, all that sort of stuff was funny. It's just kind of interesting how in a different story, similar actions can
this happens all the time on Coronation Street.
Reason.
Sometimes you're supposed to think it's funny. Sometimes you're supposed to be aghast in horror. And I think we had a bit of both today.
So a little bit like when Abby and Ray get together. Maybe it wasn't funny back then, but it was all right. And then this week, Abby and Ray in the hotel room was pretty ghastly as well.
Yeah. Right, so like you said, like you indicated just a minute ago, there wasn't a great deal of this action this week, but it began on Wednesday when Alia asks to come back to work at Speed Dial. Yasmin is very happy about this. As you can imagine, she wants to spend more time with her granddaughter. But of course, Geoff doesn't want this to happen because he wants Yasmin under his thumb and he doesn't want any pretenders to the throne and hanging about. But he pretends that he doesn't mind because that's his first tactic. I've got no words to use today. I don't know what I've done with them.
We're just about to start. We're starting to record a podcast, Gemma, and You better find them quick.
I've lost them all. So Yasmin says, Geoff, are you really sure about this? And he says, yes, of course I am. But then we see him going up to some customers and saying, oh, I do apologise for all this. The service was slow. We didn't have the paneer you wanted. So free meal, food's on the house to apologise.
And they hadn't made complaints by the sounds of it. He just decides to go over to them. And
they weren't moaning. They were like, oh, score. So then he goes and makes a fuss to Yasmin and Alia, who says, you're wasting time gossiping when you should be serving. Yasmin has got a bad back, and she's been hoovering, and she twinged it when she moved the sofa.
I wonder as well whether it was related to when she was trapped in a box all that time.
Yeah, I know.
As well.
It can't have helped, can it?
No.
She needs to get the Cod-Liver capsules out. I think Alia didn't realise that Yasmin's been doing all this housework. Indeed, why would she? So I think this is when Alia got an idea that she's been cleaning up after Geoff, and Geoff tries to sort of pretend that he's not the reason that she's doing all this.
Yasmin brings up Geoff's supposed allergies as well, doesn't she? And Alia's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Probably because Alia has gone round there and seen that the shelves are covered in dust. Did you see that this evening when Geoff ran his finger along the shelf? It was caked in the stuff.
I can't help but wonder what exactly Yasmin is doing all this time.
I know, I wonder.
I mean,
she's doing the low
down
cleaning, because that's where he puts his little red crosses.
That's true, yeah. She goes home early, so it's Geoff and Alia left in speed dial together. They butt heads because Geoff says he read Alia's handwriting wrong. I don't think he read it wrong. I think he knew exactly what it said, but he was trying to make Alia look bad. They only gave her 2 pilau rice and she should have had 3.
Tracy, yeah.
I don't know how much bloody rice she's eaten. Why do people order so much rice?
I know. Who's it for? Tracy, Steve, Amy and Liz?
Maybe Emma?
Oh, yeah, mate. Yeah, no, Emma's not. It doesn't matter.
Seems that
we don't really get rice that much when we have our takeaway curry, do we?
I prefer naan bread, so I don't understand why anyone would order pilau rice in the first place, darlings. Anyway, she then gets in trouble about this. She has to give Tracy an extra tub of ice cream, and then Geoff says, "Look, those customers that left earlier left this horrible review and said that it specifically mentions the surly waitress, the surly young waitress."
I don't know, Bethany's not got a job there, has she?
Bloody hell, why not? Alia's like, oh, whatever, people on the internet love a good moan, and that was a pretty good...
No, we don't. What are you talking about, Corrie?
Felt like that was a targeted harassment there on behalf of the Corrie writers against Twitter folk. Not saying it's not deserved. On Friday, Yasmin tells Alia that she's going to stay off work again today because of her bad back. And Alia says, look, Geoff, I still don't get on very well with him. And Yasmin's like, oh, that's weird because he was singing your praises before. And Alia's like, what?
During that scene as well, we're reminded about sick chickens. We've heard that Charlotte Bronte has not been laying recently and is looking a bit green around the giblets or whatever. What did chickens have? What's the dangly bit called?
Wattle?
Green, yeah.
I think that I'm surprised she still lays this long, really. They got her in 2014. She's 6.
I don't know.
Sounds about right. I'm surprised that Yasmin isn't relishing giving her a good long retirement. Don't you think? If I had a chicken who'd give me eggs for years, I think I'd be quite happy to let it.
Is it like one of those? Is it like one of the? As I saw it, like the policeman you get in films. It's like, just one day away from retirement.
Poor Charlotte. Oh dear. Yeah, exactly. They're fussing over Charlotte. As just to remind everybody, these chickens were originally Sharif's chickens, and she didn't like them. Then Sharif left, and she was left looking after the coop. And so now she's taking responsibility for these dear hens.
Yeah, they've grown on her.
Yeah. So she's feeding them and she's worrying about Charlotte. At work, Geoff reminds us and Alia that she's got lousy service and people are complaining about her work and things. Then he goes home, reminds Yasmin that Ali's rubbish at work. And then he says, you're worrying about the chickens too much and you're spending too much time cleaning them out when we've got dusty shelves in the house.
Literally, those shelves look like they hadn't been dusted for months. They look like our shelves.
Yeah. Geoff, I'm laughing because you're just as responsible.
I know.
Geoff is livid when Yasmin presents him with
was it a casserole or something?
It looked like, it was with rice.
Massive
it looked like a
pile
big
of rice.
hearty, stewy curry thing.
Yeah.
To me, he's not impressed with this at all.
No, he's like, what's this slop? I'm not eating this.
What's this rubbish? Where's the meat? I want meat. And she says, oh, you didn't
Where's
give me
the beef?
Meanie. Meanie? There's something wrong with my brain. You didn't give me enough money and I ran out of money for food, so there's no meat.
Well, I can understand, really, on Geoff's side here.
What do you mean?
You gotta have your meat with your dinner. It was bad. It was a good job that we had our dinner before Coronation Street today and not during, because we did have some lovely, delicious chicken meatballs for tea today.
We had lovely chicken meatballs from Waitrose with a lovely butter bean and tomato stew. So he's done this before, hasn't he? She's made him lovely food. He said, I don't want this, I want something different.
Yeah, last time he did it, he chucked it away and then he sent her out for chips.
Yeah.
Didn't he? This time
he says, right, yeah, I'm going out.
Oh, no, he didn't at that point. That was later. This is when he sends her upstairs like a naughty girl.
Bins it, sends her upstairs, and then he looks in the garden. Oh, dear. He gets out in the garden. He stands at the coop, and he looks over, and he throws down the seed to give Charlotte, God damn it, Charlotte, her final supper.
Last meal.
Her last meal. I knew there was a better way of saying that. Imagine in America, they've got the inmates on death row. What would you like for your final supper, sir? Oh God, they've let the English butlers in again.
Yeah, that's when they kill them with the letter knife or something, slit their throat.
Okay.
That's how I imagine a butler would kill you.
I suppose a butler would do it like that, or give you loads of paper cuts from ironing the paper.
Yeah.
Right. Pay attention,
He's
Gemma.
killed the chicken, Gemma.
Yeah, I know.
He's pounced on poor Emily.
I can't bring myself to say it.
Charlotte,
Emily.
I mean.
It's not Emily Bronte that's dead, it's Charlotte. Right. He lures her over with food, and I can really relate to Charlotte here because that would work on me as well. Pounces on her, and from I can't remember what moment we realised this was going to happen. I think it's when he started moaning about not having any meat. I was like, he's going to kill the chicken. I can't believe this. I can't wait to see this happen.
I'd actually written in the notes on Wednesday, like, is Geoff going to attack the chickens? Just because they were brought up and because they were talking about...
Chekhov's gun, see?
Chekhov gun. And then I thought, why did they talk about that? But I didn't expect it to happen so soon. And to be honest, I didn't think it actually really would. But as this episode was going on, I was like... They really are, aren't they?
Yeah,
and then when they went over to them, when he went to give them the food, I was thinking, is he not? Is he going to poison this chicken? But it was just a lure.
A horrible man. I tell you what, I am impressed by any man who can roast, take a live chicken, turn it into a dead chicken, pluck it, gut it, butcher it, drain all the blood out, truss it, roast it, and do veggies, roasted potatoes and gravy in the time that I'm having a nap.
I know, and he's still like kind of fairly cheery about it, didn't he?
Where did all the feathers go? Do you know how difficult it is to pluck a chicken?
He's probably sent Yasmin up to bed with a pillow freshly stuffed with Charlotte's feathers.
I wouldn't be surprised if she was lying there and Storm Jorge's blowing piles of feathers against the window. And she's cowering, going, what the... I'm not even going to ask questions.
Of course, we didn't see any of the murdering, and it cut to the break, didn't it? And I was wondering, when we kind of got to the point that it's like, no, he really is going to go there, didn't he? I was thinking, what are they going to show here? But they just had him lifting open the coop, didn't they? Yeah. And then a bit of startled clucking. I mean, it was no Tyrion Lannister and the deer moment here, but... You know, Tyrion Lannister's first appearance when he's slicing open a deer or something.
You don't mean Tyrion.
Oh, not Tyrion. What's his name?
Lannister.
Yeah.
Father Lannister.
Oh, what was his name? Tywin Lannister.
That's
I knew
it.
it was something similar.
Um,
Tyrion Lannister could slice open a deer and get inside it.
just like Luke
Anyway, we're not talking about Game
in
of Thrones.
Star Wars.
Carry on.
Oh God, I don't know what.
He's killed the chicken.
He's only gone and killed the chicken. Everybody.
But even at that point, it
really
wasn't.
are
We
waffling.
weren't completely sure that that's happened. We thought that's got to. Are they doing that? Are they really going?
Yeah, I know.
Maybe not.
Sometimes they have.
We
done,
haven't seen it.
They have done fake outs, and that would have been perfectly acceptable to me because the drama and the thrill of have they killed the chicken or not was quite enough for me. But no, they went the whole hog, as it were. She comes downstairs, Yasmin does, to a calm and loving Geoff, because he always does this right before the storm. He's calm and nice. He's cooked her what else? A nice roast chicken. She said, "Oh, I didn't hear you go out." How come you didn't hear him go out, but you also didn't hear him murder your chicken in the garden?
Very true.
That might have made a noise.
He didn't do it very long after she went upstairs to bed either.
I don't know how much experience he's got in killing chickens, but I can imagine it was a bit of a struggle.
Maybe he chloroformed it.
Can you eat chloroformed chicken? I know
maybe.
you can eat chlorinated chicken.
I know. I mean, there was something wrong with Charlotte anyway, wasn't there? Because she'd been not laying, she'd been ill or something. So I hope she didn't have anything too bad.
No, I think she's just old. That's why I was surprised at how succulent Yasmin said the chicken was, because I think she'd be quite stringy, to be honest.
Did they not age like a fine wine?
No, they don't. Because I remember when I was little, we had a teacher. You know when you're little and you're full of, like, moral... What's the word?
Indignation.
Yeah, and I was like, why can't we just let chickens and animals die of old age and then eat them? And she was like, no, it tastes horrible. And I was like, oh, you make a compelling point.
So not only did he kill and pluck and cook and prepare the vegetables and everything, he also managed to do some kind of magic to make it taste really tasty. I mean,
maybe it's the marinade.
Credit to.
I heard that if you brine the meat, it's very, very good. Let me know if you want any recipes. So she's enjoying this delicious Friday night roast. Well, I don't know what day this is supposed to be. Maybe this is supposed to be Thursday.
I'm not sure what day this is supposed to be, because there's a bit in the episode tonight where Gemma's like, we're going to go to a such and such class on Friday, and then next week we're doing coffee morning or something. And I was like, hang on a minute, it is Friday today, so...
We really are waffling through this.
I know, considering we've got a time limit.
The drama here, Geoff goes out into the coop in the night like a thief in the darkness, bludgeons this poor dear pet to death, plucks it, roasts it, presents it on the table, like, you're going to go back to Game of Thrones, the pies, Frey pies.
Oh, yeah.
Gives it to Yasmin. Yasmin's sitting there innocently tucking into this delicious roast chicken. And as she's eating it, she's going, I didn't know you went out. Oh, this is very tender. This is absolutely perfect. You've cooked this really well. Which is funny because the last time Geoff cooked for her, he made it bland. Remember that?
Oh yeah, his bland dumplings.
He's obviously learned how to season his food for a change.
Oh, that's what happens when you work in speed dial, isn't it? He's picked up some tips.
He raises a toast and he says, to Charlotte, who's fed us one last time. Right, Yasmin was right in the middle.
It's like a second mouthful, wasn't it?
Of a mouthful of delicious chicken breast meat. And she spits it out all over the plate and leaves the table horrified at what she's just... This is...
Even around that point, I was thinking, maybe he's just going to make her think that she's eating the chicken. Yeah, you were saying that.
It can't be. It's not really her. It's not really her.
But I think now it is. We didn't have like a final scene of him kind of sneaking away to the hen house somewhere and find that he's stashed her away.
Isn't it just a totally horrific escalation of violence to do this to a pet?
Oh, yeah, of course.
It's a chicken, and we eat chickens, and I'm sure if you're a vegetarian or a vegan, you find this all very hypocritical, and I completely understand. But many people, like myself, are perfectly fine in their mind drawing a line between eating pets and, well, not eating pets, but domestic animals and pets, you know? Not eating pets and petting pets.
Say he wouldn't have liked this. Toya
would
She'd
not
have been
approved.
Outraged.
But even if you agree with eating meat, you shouldn't kill an animal you socialise with. Certainly not without the permission of the person who owns it.
Well, he's plays in a way. He thinks, oh, it's my chicken now. I married Jasmine. Get a house, get her chickens, get her bank cards.
I've had endorsed on Twitter with many likes, the chicken's name is officially Charlotte Nazir. Bronte is just her middle name. Therefore, she still belongs to Sharif, in my opinion.
Oh, Sherry's going to be mad.
He's going to come back.
Yeah.
He's going to come back for Charlotte and find nothing but bones. She goes outside and she's crying. She's sobbing her heart out in the garden. And he says to her, you said they were for food. At least we know she was free range. And she's totally inconsolable. She says, you're heartless, you're horrible. I can't believe you would do such a thing. You're a horrible man. And then she rushes off inside. And she's gone upstairs. She comes back down again. And he says, you're just mad at me. After all the hard work I've gone to, I can't believe you're mad about this. And in fact, it's your fault I had to do it, because if you hadn't made a mess of dinner, I wouldn't have had to kill your chicken. So I'm off to the pub. Sorry about that. Well, he didn't say sorry, does he?
No.
Bye, I'm off to the pub.
Yeah, he's like, screw you, Yasmin. I worked really hard on this dinner, actually.
It's even more difficult than going to the shops, Yasmin. If it was easy to kill and pluck your own chicken and stick it in the oven, everyone would be doing it, wouldn't they, love?
You could have just gone and got a microwave meal from Dev's.
Could have done a lot of things, couldn't he?
Mm.
I don't know why they don't just make extra portions of what they eat, serve at speed dial and eat it at home. I think that's what I would do.
You get sick of it.
I don't think I would. Goes up to the pub. Gail. Now we finally get some movement in this storyline that's beyond just Yasmin being treated worse and worse and worse. Gail sees Yasmin crying in the garden. She says, what's wrong? And Yasmin says, I've just got a cold. Then Gail sees Alia in the street and says, what's wrong with your gran? Is she all right? And Alia says, what do you mean? And she says, I just thought she was really upset. So now we've got Alia and Gail on the case. They know something's up with...
Do you think that Gail is going to be part of the story going forward? Because I kind of think that she was just a vehicle for letting Alia know today.
Yeah, all right.
And Alia, because she's been suspicious of Geoff already in the way that he's been treating her, I was expecting there to be a scene at the end of the episode where Alia comes over. It seemed to be going towards that way.
It does feel a bit like this episode is set on a Thursday and then Friday is going to be Monday's episode.
Maybe.
Because Adam and Sarah quite strike me as the sort of ruffians and rogues that might get married on a Friday to save some money.
Oh, right. Who would do such a thing?
The final scene, in fact, is Geoff getting home from the pub and Yasmin cleaning the taps in the kitchen, and there's silence. Neither of them are speaking to each other. Yeah,
the fact that she's still there cleaning up kind of makes me think, have you learned nothing from this, Yasmin?
I don't know whether it's that. I think it's more psychological, like, oh God, my pet juices are everywhere.
It's
like
I guess
cleaning up a crime scene.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
she should have left it, really, because the police are going to get around there. And so you interfered to the crime scene. You hate the evidence.
Well, I butchered that storyline just like Geoff butchered Charlotte. So let's talk about what did you think of that, Michael?
Well, I think we kind of talked about our reactions already. It's like I loved it yet hated it, but I'm just so glad that they went that far. And I know people must be listening and thinking, what a monster, because I mean the anti Geoff and Yasmin story brigade.
I probably don't like it. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say
I'm going to
dislike this turn of events.
Yeah, I mean, it was bad up till now.
Shall we tell Peter?
Did they think this was worse because it happened to a chicken, or did they think it was not so bad because it was just a chicken? I don't know, but for me, I never thought it would really get as serious as that they would have this character actually kill one of her chickens. And can you just say, well, it was just a chicken?
No.
He's no
chicken.
You know, he's no serial killer or anything.
Listen, I wish I didn't like meat, and I would love to be a vegetarian, but I can't do it because I'm greedy and selfish. But chickens really do have their own little personalities. And
they do.
Their own little ways, and they've got their friends, and they've got their pecking, like literally pecking order is there for a reason. Like they all have their hierarchies and stuff.
Mm. Oh, I mean, my view is that it's in some ways it is worse. It's not worse than killing a person, but
what the hell were you trying to say, Michael?
I'm just saying that these poor defenseless creatures that couldn't have...
Are you turning them into a vegan?
No, I was just saying that they couldn't have put up a fight and...
I was going to say, because you don't like chickpeas enough. I keep trying to make you eat chickpeas and lentils and you have it.
it's just unnecessarily cruel. It's an act of cruelty that you
I
can
know.
get away with. You're not going to get
course.
arrested for
No.
killing a chicken,
Can't.
but you would get arrested for
Killing a person, yeah, you would.
and for killing another family pet, wouldn't you? If
I don't think so.
If you're found to have harmed a cat or a dog or something like that, you get hauled into court.
It depends on the circumstances. You now have a duty of care to animals that you own, like the RSPCA and stuff, for there to be a law where you have to provide certain minimum level of care for your animals. But I don't think it's cut and dried as that, because aren't you not allowed to stop if you hit a cat? Like if you're driving in the road and you run over a cat and you stop and somebody hits you, it's your fault. You're not supposed to have stopped.
Yeah, definitely.
So then there must be some kind of grey.
I think purposeful harm to a pet.
Yeah, but I think
or is illegal. And
I know, but that's like I don't think the act of killing an animal is. I don't know.
It's different if it's an animal that could be considered as livestock for eating.
I don't
if you raise animals to kill them, because isn't we got some friends here, Ralph and Sheila, they've got their chicken. And don't they kill them? Hasn't Ralph killed? Have they raised chickens for their eggs and then they kill them? So Geoff could just say, well, it was just a chicken.
What's your point? I don't understand what your point is.
I'm saying that it's a really, obviously a really, really murky area, because it's so horrible and cruel and despicable. Yet he's got the perfect defence of it's just a chicken.
Of course, it's just a chicken. It's not illegal to kill livestock. I think it's illegal to cause suffering to animals.
But it's perfect that
I don't know if you need a license.
If Yasmin had a cat or a hamster or whatever, and he wouldn't have said, well, I've killed them for food. You said it was for food. But if he had killed her hamster or her cat, would that have been worse? Would it have been the same? Or would he have not done it because he knew he wouldn't have had a leg to stand on if he'd been reported to Craig Tinker?
The point of what he did was that he's got plausible deniability, and all the way through, this is Geoff's like cloak of invisibility. He can say, no, you've got it completely wrong, and he can even start spinning yarns about, when I were a lad, my granddad would always kill us a chicken on a Sunday. It's nothing to me. I don't understand what you're talking about. I thought these were livestock. That's what you told me.
Yeah, he can totally get away with it, and I expect next week he's going to be telling that to other people, if other people find out. Because the only person that's really going to find out and know and care, really, is Alia. But I wonder whether Yasmin is going to tell Alia, oh no, Charlotte died of natural causes, because even though this horrific turn of events has happened, it still might not be what pushes her over into realising, I need to get away from this man. Especially as she was kind of cleaning almost therapeutically at the end. It's going to make me think that by Monday she'll have kind of told herself, maybe I did give him the impression they were just for eating. Maybe it was my fault and he was just trying to cook me a nice meal.
Of course she'll get brainwashed into it.
So, and she'll think, well, if I tell Alia that Geoff killed Charlotte, then she's gonna go off and she's gonna try and get him into trouble. But I don't want to stir the pot here.
I've got to smooth over this misunderstanding. I just want to say, I looked it up on Gov UK, and if you're a sensitive disposition, just don't listen to this. But I'm not going to go into details. But you are legally allowed to kill your own pigs, sheep, cattle, goats, poultry, rabbits, and hares.
Rabbits
and hares to eat at home. You don't need a license to kill animals as long as you own the animal. You kill it on your own property. You're killing it for you or your immediate family who live on your property to eat.
Well, there you go. No law has been broken apart from the whole coercive control thing.
If you do not follow the rules, you have to stun it before you kill it.
Ah, really?
Yeah.
So he didn't do that.
I don't want to talk too much about the details of what that involves, but you can imagine if you want to. So he hasn't done anything wrong, legally speaking, and he can spin his... Again, isn't it interesting that he's always skirting on the side of being able to get away with saying, well, when is he going to do the first thing that he genuinely has no excuse for? Well, what could that be now at this point? Because honestly, I don't know. I think she would even just pass up him hitting her now if she said... if he said something like, "You just made me so upset, I lashed out, I was flashing back to when I was with my ex and she used to beat me and I never defended myself," or, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think now it's going to go there. I think if it was going to go to him hitting her, it would have already.
No, I think it will.
But you're right, I don't know how much worse it can get.
I think it kind of has to, in a way. Because if where else can it go? He's killed her chicken and made her eat it out of malice and spite.
Well, Coronation Street writers have got some wild imagination, so we'll just have to wait and see, I guess. It's a really interesting... I don't know whether this story feels like it's almost ready to end, or whether it feels like it could go on for ages and ages, because I've always said it's going to be a long-running story, and it already has been a long-running story. I've got no sense that whether we're nearly there or not. And it's bad, but I kind of hope that we're not. I'm still nowhere near done with this story. I'm happy for this to run and run and run.
No, I don't think
it's the same with the Pat Phelan stuff, I suppose.
No. I'm happy for this to end in a month or so. If it doesn't, I'll understand, because if
it does and it's done satisfactorily, fine. But
I just can't. I just think it's going to escalate now. I think that Coronation Street knows that this is a nation of animal lovers, and people will be outraged that this has happened.
Oh yes, Ofcom. They are going to be working overtime on this.
Yeah.
Interestingly, there was a post. It was on Coronation Street blog earlier on Monday, I think, but this is because it had been reported on one of the other tabloids. They listed the number of complaints that Coronation Street's had recently, and Corrie always gets complaints for this, that, and the other. But specifically in the weeks where in February, where the Geoff and Yasmin story ran. On the week ending the 3rd of February, there were 41 complaints, and that was the one where Yasmin goes to the AA meeting, and then at the end of the episode, he forces her to down a bottle of wine, Bruce Bogtrotter style. And then for the Matt Hilton week, where with the Yasmin trapped in a box, that got 71 complaints. And of course, the complaints weren't all necessarily about that story. It could have been just more people that were sick of Gemma, and they just every week do their ritual of saying, "Stop showing me so much Gemma.
I don't want to see any more babies."
But I do wonder how many complaints this is going to get.
I'm going to bet 150.
I think it could be more.
Really? What do you think?
I could say 250, 300.
But the thing is, though, people are angry about all kinds of things at the moment. I don't know if they can muster up the strength to get angry about this as well.
I think that this is going to get more complaints than those 2 weeks combined.
But have you seen how many people are mad about Greta Thunberg today, and she made Bristol muddy? They're probably really mad about that, and they haven't got time to complain about Coronation Street, because this is far more important to them.
Maybe this was the final straw. No, I think
there's a 17-year-old scrumpy girl telling them that they're not allowed to go on aeroplanes anymore, and they don't like it.
Do you think that Coronation Street went too far?
No.
Because there's the whole, it's before the watershed. What if children were watching?
Children know where their food comes from, and if they don't, it's your fault for not telling them.
This is a harsh lesson, wasn't it?
I'm sorry, but it's true. That's where food comes from.
I mean, I was happy with Pat Phelan having Andy and Vinny killed in cold blood before the watershed. But
if you watch Coronation Street, there have been murders on the show before. I think a chicken is okay. This is important. It shows, like you said, it shows escalation. It shows manipulation. It shows plausible deniability, and it shows the lengths at which Geoff is going to go to, and it shows that he's prepared to be violent. One thing I really wish they had shown is his reaction immediately upon killing the chicken, because I think he's a bit of an enigma at the moment. Yeah. I'm not really sure what he thinks about anything.
No.
All I know is his emotions that he feels in relation to what Yasmin does or says.
All the way through this, it's not been clear. Does he know that he's being the villain? Because we're not getting many evil smiles from him. We're getting some, but some viewers sometimes need the character to kind of smile even.
No. This is why I need the book.
He's not showing the usual signs. And was he really mad that Yasmin didn't cook him any meat for dinner, or was he just using it? Did he care that he was killing a chicken?
I bet you he felt a combination of anger and elation. Like, oh, that stupid cow, she's given me this slop for dinner, but now I get to righteously punish her, and how can I do it? like the thrill of like, I'm going to put her in her place.
Oh, that's
and
what
I'm
I think.
gonna
There's just
unleash
no knowing smiles or anything.
No, but Michael, this is a serious storyline. Real abusers don't do a smirk to camera before they go off and...
Maybe I've just been conditioned to look out for these
this is not a
unsubtle hints.
This is not a pantomime villain we're talking about here. This is a person who could exist in anybody's life.
I'd be fascinated to know what's going on inside his mind.
The reason I bring this up is, was he... I would really... I tell you what would have made me more scared of Geoff, if you had seen him sickened by what he did, yet still going through with it. Like he's pushing himself through the disgust and the trauma of killing a chicken just to make a point to Yasmin.
Yeah.
Because to me, that's
like
even more scary than somebody who's just clearly has no compassion at all.
Yeah. I mean, even like, Phelan crossed himself after he let Michael Rodwell die there, so you got to see some kind of emotion about it. After he killed Andy, he said, I can't remember whatever his line was, like you had it coming, or you didn't have anyone else to live with yourself. You got something.
Right. Yeah, but then again, see, the same things happen. Like he was sacrificing those people for the greater good, and Geoff really genuinely thinks that Yasmin needs to be punished for what she did to him. And this is the best way of doing it. And I think he's half convinced himself most of the time, whenever he does something, he's half convinced himself that perhaps the methods he's using aren't correct, but he's still in the right.
Yeah. But would you have thought before this week that he would have been capable of that? Because I think that was one of the most shocking things. I didn't think that he would have even done it.
I honestly think...
too brutal.
I'm starting to now wonder if this story is going to end with the death of Geoff through him, through some kind of horrible high stakes.
I didn't want Geoff to die before this, and I still don't say that I do, because it seems like quite convenient. But now that he's done that,
now that he's proven himself to be a violent person, I can definitely see him getting into an altercation. But at the same time, I think that Coronation Street is going to be careful, because they've spoken a lot about working with charities, and this is not a trivial thing that, and this isn't a thing that rarely happens to people. This happens to women all the time. There are thousands of women this is happening to right now. They've got to be really careful about how they portray this. If Geoff and Yasmin got into an altercation and Yasmin accidentally killed Geoff, that's a whole can of worms they're going to have to open.
Oh, I don't want
and
that.
It's going to really also... I don't think it's going to work. I don't think it's fair on people who are in the situation to have that. But what I do think that might happen with Geoff is he might come to fatal harm, laying some kind of plan, or setting Yasmin up in some manner.
His own fault,
like, for example, there was a case of a guy in this in the UK who his girlfriend or wife was what they called parachute jumper, and he tried to kill her by cutting the cords of her parachute, and she actually jumped out of the plane and survived because she was so thin and petite, and she landed in a furrowed field, so it was cushioned, her blow was cushioned. But before that happened, he had done things like cut the gas line in the kitchen to let it leak gas all over the place. He tried to kill her multiple times, and they found all the evidence of this. I can imagine Geoff setting Yasmin up for some kind of horrible maiming or even to kill her. But coming a cropper of it himself in some kind of poetic justice.
Well, what I'd quite like at the moment is for him to get inside that chicken coop to try and poison the chickens and end up being locked in there and have some kind of recreation from... it's not the birds, but having his eyes.
No, it would be
having
like
his eyes
like
plucked
Tippi
out
Hedren
and
being attacked by a load of crows.
Yeah, and then Yasmin comes home one day and just finds his corpse there with
his eyes
claw
plucked
scratches, and maybe that one can be for the Britain's Got Talent post Watershed week.
Let's write it.
I don't think anybody would complain about that.
I think they would.
Anything particularly else to say about this story, about the reviews maybe? I mean, we're assuming that it's Geoff that's written the reviews. I don't think they made it completely obvious, but I think it is supposed to be obvious. I think maybe Alia's going to find out about that.
I'm just finding this continuously compelling.
I really, really am. It's the best story
watching
at the moment.
And so horrific. I'm so glad I can't relate to this at all. but I know, like, I've got a friend who's gone through this, so
yeah, and some of our listeners have as well.
Yeah, makes me feel like it's really important that anybody who doesn't believe this could happen, they can watch this and say this is a real thing. And it's kind of sad to me in a way that I'm still seeing people on Twitter going, why doesn't Yasmin just tell him where to go? Why doesn't Yasmin just run away? Why doesn't Yasmin wouldn't do this? Yasmin's too powerful, Yasmin's too strong, blah blah blah. It really upsets me that people still haven't got it, because I think I don't see how else Coronation Street or Shelley King could play this to make it more obvious that what has happened is she's been beaten down. It's like a stone with water flowing over it continuously makes a groove. No matter how strong the stone is to begin with, the relentlessness of the water is going to wear it away.
Yeah, totally. Right, so let's raise hell, Gemma, with the Abby and Kevin storyline.
More drama!
There was more drama here
This was probably
week.
the biggest drama story.
I think this is what we were originally going to have first before I
But-
plucked those chickens and stuck them at the top.
But we really just have our hearts are with
Well, I know it's the immediate shock and the fact
Yasmin.
that, and I try not to read the synopses. I briefly skim
we
them
need
to
to
see
say this,
which
don't we?
characters are in it. But after tonight's episode, I looked at the synopses for tonight's episode, and that was not mentioned in there. So
Yes,
that was
so this was a proper, well done Coronation Street for keeping
Not-
this under your hat and
yeah.
not telling everybody that the chicken was going to die.
yeah. And unless I don't know, I haven't seen next week's. Obviously, I don't know whether it's mentioned there, but it
Still
seemed
reeling from the death of her chicken that she ate.
Yes, but it seemed like that this was a surprise to everybody tonight. So well done. Let's have more of that, please.
Surprise KFC.
It's almost like Kate Oates decided to come back for tonight's episode and say, "Look, Ian, let me show you how it's done."
You want to do dark and grey? I'll show you dark and grey. Where's your chickens?
Gritty chicken.
Oh, no thanks.
So Abby's still worried about the whole Ray situation on Monday, and then when Paula comes over, she's still talking very hypothetically about, what if I had blown up his car? She's making it so obvious that she did it without saying it. But Paula says, "Look, it's okay. I really don't think that Ray's got any evidence. Just stay out of his way, stay out of trouble, and everything's going to be fine
well, she's
here."
basically saying, like, his lawyer hasn't said anything to me, so...
Yeah. Tyrone and Kevin had called out to go and fix a broken down van or something later on in the morning, which leaves Abby alone in the garage with Ray lurking about ready to pounce like Geoff on some chickens. And he comes over and it quickly transpires that it was a mate of his who set out this call out because he wanted to get Abby alone there. And this is when he brings out this evidence that he'd teased at the end of last Friday's episode. Very handily, a party guest at the bistro do a few weeks ago had a dash cam parked right next to his car, and it was running while the car was off for some reason, but never mind about that, maybe some of them do that, and it was able to catch Abby getting in the car and then driving off. And although that's obviously not stone cold evidence that she then blew it up, the fact that she'd lied about where she was, she said that she was with Kevin and everything, it's pretty damning, really. And he's ever so smug about this. I mean, if it was me and my pride and joy, like his car had been blown up, I think I'd still be, pretty hurt about this. But he's just pleased that he's got to buy... What do you get women by? Because I know what you get men by.
The ovaries.
He's got to buy the
He's
ovaries.
twisted up her fallopian tubes.
Tied her into knots. And then
Imagine,
he says...
Michael, if I took your switch and threw it in the canal.
And then he says, well, there's one way that we can get out of this, and hands her a hotel invitation, says, come and meet me at the
Michael,
hotel. So he totally
darling.
pulls.
That's called a room key.
You don't go to enough hotels.
Can you imagine you work at a hotel front desk and here's your invitations, there you go. Would you need one or two for the room?
He basically pulls a Pat Phelan and says, come and meet me at the hotel and maybe we'll see if we
Let's
can make
shag
this
our
all go
problems
away.
away.
Yeah. Kev comes
And
back
she
from
says, if only it was that easy. It just seems to make more problems every time I do it.
Kev comes back from this hoax call out and he noticed that Abby seems very quiet and says, look, I know you're still upset about Ray, but it's going to turn out all right. He's just bluffing when he says he's got evidence, don't worry. And they have an extra long, soapy, sad hug so that Abby really lets us in the audience know that she's feeling bad and conflicted and worried and everything. There was a lingering
sad.
stare into the camera right there.
Yeah.
So she goes over to Paula and says, look, you know what? You know, I said hypothetically, I torched the car. I don't know whether you picked up on this. But yeah, I actually did do it.
I think
tells her everything.
This is probably why Paula didn't go into being a detective and prefers to be a lawyer.
Yeah. It seems that she's going to face quite a lengthy prison sentence if she's found guilty. I can't remember how long they said.
It was like 5 years
something like that, yeah. And even Kevin could get up to a year for...
But don't they give you, like,
police obstruction,
time
lying,
off?
whatever.
I know they give you time off for good behaviour, but do they give you time off for, like, doing really cool crimes?
Yeah.
Walking away from the explosion without looking back?
They totally should.
Like, I see here that you although you did...
You played a classic action movie.
Although you did smile when the thing blew up, you didn't look back, which I can actually give you 12 months off for that. Thank you, Your Honour.
Well, you know...
It was rather cool.
Even 3 or 4 years when you should have been getting 5 is still more than you want.
And I've also looked on here, and it was a red sports car. Well,
awesome.
You can go home immediately. That's awesome, dude.
Well, we can't. I don't know whether Abby can take that risk.
No, she can't be sure, can she? If you get the wrong judge, you could be in for 10 years.
Yeah. So back at home later, Abby witnesses a heartwarming scene whereby Kevin is comforting Jack, who's been bullied because, you know what, he's only got one leg. He reminded us this week. He's not been in a...
I tell you what, he gave the game away when he pulled his leg off and started beating the people up with it.
Yeah.
Stop making fun of me!
Somebody made a point on Facebook this week about, like, is his leg extendable? Because that boy is shooting up, isn't he?
Oh, I don't know. I'm sure that they... I know, I saw that question as well. I'm almost
Otherwise,
certain.
he's going to be ending up having to put his hand on his hip like Pat Phoenix in his next scene.
I'm almost certain they are adjustable for children.
You'd have thought so.
Well, if not, it's a bloody waste of money, isn't
Abby realises by witnessing that Jack really does need his dad what she must do and calls Ray.
Have you ever seen those videos of the hermit crabs? Where, did you know that they do this? Hermit crabs, when they're ready to shed their shells, one of them will find a shell, and if it's the wrong size, it literally just hangs about and waits for other hermit crabs. And a load of them come up and they all start touching each other's shells, and then they arrange themselves in order of size, biggest to smallest. Well, this doesn't happen every time, but this can happen. And then they all kind of get out the shells and shuffle for one forward and then get in the other shell.
They can play musical shells.
I'm just
thinking...
thinking...
that's a hermit crab party game.
Do they do this with children's legs?
Yeah, maybe.
Like they line them up in
You've had your growth spurt.
And then they just send the leg down one, everybody. Boop, 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 boop.
Who knows?
I don't know.
Who knows?
But if I was in charge, I would look into doing it like that.
I mean, the NHS is going to be flooded with coronavirus stuff any minute now, so they need to be swapping around prostheses as best they can.
Wipe it down first.
Back over. So what was I saying? Oh, that was earlier. She's phoned up Ray and accepts his offer, so she strides off out looking really upset. Sally sees her and tries to find out what's up, and Abby really isn't in the mood for a Sally lecture right now and kind of strides off even faster.
For a Sally lecture.
Sally sees Kevin in the pub and says, I saw Abby upset earlier, I don't know what was wrong. And so Kevin says, oh, it'd be fine, I'll phone her up. And she's there at the hotel at that point, I think, and she's very clearly upset and worried and sort of and just trying to get rid of him off the phone, saying, it's all right, I've got an appointment, I've got girl stuff. And Kevin's like, whoa, I don't need to know any more about that, thank you very much. Put the phone down, yeah, Sally, she's fine, it's okay. It didn't sound at all genuine.
Word, period.
Mene, what are we like? We just can't pick up on these subtle hints.
Precious angles.
So Ray lets her into the room. He gets her to put on a sexy nightie, and Abby is clearly very, very ashamed of what she's lowered herself to.
She should not be ashamed.
She just wants it over with.
He's humiliating her by making her wear all this sexy stuff. It's horrible and disgusting, and cringy and gross. Making me want to jump out of my skin and throw the skin down the drain.
It was vile. And then just when she thinks she's about to do the deed, he's I think, is she there with her eyes closed? I can't remember. He kind of comes up to her and pretty much laughs in her face and says, well, you know what, the deal's off.
Well, I know what
lengths. Yeah, he does. He calls her disgusting. He says, I know what lengths you go to now.
He's just hot. This was actually...
And she is left utterly humiliated.
Like, the Anna and Pat stuff was foul. And it can't be worse than that because Pat raped Anna. But, you know, in a way, this was just as horrific because he was humiliating her and breaking her spirit. And obviously he's not that was bad, but you know what I mean.
No.
It was. I also thought it was a really great twist.
Oh, yeah, I did as well. I thought to check,
Sorry.
come back to that in a bit. So that's fine. So Abby comes into the Rovers later after she's come back from the hotel. She's very clearly het up and saying, "Oh, Kevin doesn't deserve me." Sally's there trying to make...
No.
What?
I don't deserve Kevin. Not Kevin doesn't deserve me.
I
saw a glimpse of myself in the hotel mirror with this sexy get up. I haven't taken it off yet.
Smoking.
Ray didn't take the labels off. More for him. He ain't returning it. It's mine now.
Did you see how cool I looked when I walked away from that car?
Check 1 for me. Check 2. These sexy undies. I'm on fire, baby.
I don't deserve Kevin. And Sally's trying to make her feel better and make her feel basically less worthless about herself.
This is terrible. I hate it when a character's sad about something and another character's trying to cheer them up, but they don't understand what the problem is, and the other person won't tell them. And it's like such hollow words.
I know.
They're trying really hard to make her feel better.
Yeah, and Kevin and Jenny's like, well, he's got a special tea on for you at home.
Oh, it's made it worse. He's made me a special tea.
Yeah, a heart-shaped pizza.
He thinks I'm on my period.
Tell you what, that made me want to have a homemade pizza again, seeing that.
That made me look at that and go,
homemade pizza.
I am so glad I don't eat crap like that.
It looked like it was proper homemade, wasn't it? Wasn't the freezer pizza,
It was a freezer pizza.
I thought he'd made
Any
it.
pizza that you can lay carefully upon the rungs of directly onto the, what's it called?
Baking tray?
No, it's not a baking
Pizza
tray.
stone?
No, not a pizza stone. If you can put it on the rails of your oven
Grill pan?
it's not a good pizza, is it? If it's so rigid that it doesn't flop when you stick it on the thing.
Kevin has got skills. And I think I've just solved the problem of the missing chef at the bistro. Especially if Kevin's going to be thrown out of the garage by Ray. He's going to tell you what, you get my pizzas, it doesn't drip through the...
Michael, I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I don't offend anybody, but if you've made a pizza in your own house from dough that you've got from scratch, and you can throw it like a frisbee at somebody, it's not a good pizza. And that's before you cook it, obviously.
Oh, but it's the thought that counts. Knock at the door and we all think it's going to be Abby, but no, in strides Ray.
I thought that Kevin's heart-shaped, inadequately sized pizza for two with its sad little toppings was supposed to be sweetly inadequate and makes you feel sorry for how inept he is.
Well, if Kevin had made that for me, he'd have won my heart. That's all I'm saying.
Well, now you're making me look like a bad cook because your standards are so low and you keep telling everybody I'm good at cooking.
So anyway, it's Ray at the door, and then Abby comes back later and finds the two guys there. Kevin's been told about the dash cam footage, and Ray said, well, there's one way we can fix that, and you have got to sell me the garage. And while you're at it, the arch next to the Rovers as well, so the place where Gary's got his furniture shop.
But where's Gary going to sell his stuff from?
I don't know. Well, he's still got Rick Neelan's office, haven't they? What's happened to that? We haven't seen that in months.
Imagine that Gary's given rent to
Kevin, I think, yeah. I can't remember. I'm sure they talked about it.
It makes no sense to Gary to rent out the archers and own the factory, but we won't talk about that right now.
Never mind. Anyway, Kevin's, he's been got by the male ovaries.
Oh, we just need to point out that Ray is asking for Kevin to sell him the property, the building,
yes, not the
that
business.
The garage is in, and the arch as well, not the business or any of the stuff inside the garage, literally just. So now instead of, and I think also we find out later on from Kevin and Tyrone that they don't necessarily own it, or they part own it, because he was saying, well, instead of paying a mortgage we pay rent. So I don't know if it's even paid off yet. I assume it is paid off.
He's been there quite a while.
I wouldn't know why it wasn't paid off, but especially considering he's got crap loads of money in the bank from his dead
Auntie Vi.
Yeah.
I've got a feeling that money's going to come into this story somewhere. I don't know. Anyway, he's given Kevin 24 hours to decide. Next day, there's a bit more.
Abby's sad.
Abby is sad, yes.
Poor Abby.
Just in case you were wondering.
She's like, haha, I don't care, I've got free nighty.
Ray taunts Kevin the next day, reminds him that you got until the end of the day. Remember what I said at the end of the last episode? Just reminding you new viewers.
TikTok.
Abby reckons that Kevin should just go and tell Ray to go stuff himself. like a chicken. And
Prophetic words.
Kevin doesn't want to risk going to court, especially with him looking after Jack and everything. He could just take this, £90,000 or something. He says he's going to get for it. He could just use that to go and buy new premises elsewhere.
It does feel a bit like a
move
sort
over
of
there.
hollow victory, because the only reason why Ray would win this sort of more, like, I don't know, Battle of Wills is if Kevin actually cares.
Yeah, he does. I mean, he's attached to that
if
garage.
he just says, "Well, I don't care, I'll go buy somewhere else," what would Ray do then? Do you think he'd go, "Oh, well, don't worry about it"?
I'm gonna get you to sell that too. Thing with all these blackmail stories, though, isn't it? Once you've given in to their demands, they just up the ante, which is what happens here later this episode. Anyway, Abby says, "Look, Ray's just doing this to get at me. Maybe I can try and persuade him to punish me in another way without going through you." And Kevin's like, "No, don't do that." But she goes over anyway and tries to get Ray to bag off, but he's not going to, and he says, "Clock's ticking, we've got until sundown. And then if you don't, then look at this," revealing a picture that he took of her in her sexy nightie at the hotel.
She's like, "Bloody hell,
I not only have evidence..."
Give that to me, I'll show everybody.
I'm going to show Tim this. Not Tim.
What?
Not Tim. I'm sorry, I'm confusing Sally Carman and Joe Dertine again.
No, you're not confusing Sally Carman and Joe Dertine.
Who am I confusing?
You didn't think that was Tim in a nightie, did you?
I don't know. Maybe let's get into 90. I've lost my train of thought now. We're trying to make this a quick episode. It's not working, is it?
She gets shown the picture of herself because she's like, "Oh, I don't care. Well, you can't make him do anything." And he says, "If you don't get him to do what I've asked you to do, I'm going to show you this picture," because she was basically saying to him, "You can't prove that I was going to sleep with you." And he said, "Yes, I can."
Yeah.
Because this night is the same night you're wearing right now. Although, and she goes, "No, how did you know I still had it on?"
To be honest, the story could have also gone with her saying, "Well, that was taken when he was going out with me a few weeks ago." And I know that the photos would have had a timestamp on them, but I don't. Kevin's stupid, exactly. And it just makes me remember back to the whole Tyrone, Kirsty, Fizz
but also
misunderstandings.
Equally, you can just say, "Oh, he just edited that."
Kevin would have bought that.
Well, she didn't think of that, did she, Michael? It would have been handy if you'd told her at the time.
I know. Sorry, Abby. Could have saved me a bit of trouble there. So Abby has got no choice, she thinks, to go over to Kevin and say, "Look, I went over to see Ray. Don't mention the hotel at the moment."
But to be fair to Kevin and Abby, they're not supposed to be the brightest bulbs, are they?
No.
They've got the looks, though.
Oh, yeah. Kevin just says, "Right, I'm going to contact Ray and meet up with him myself," and he tries to appeal to Ray's good side, which clearly there isn't one of. And he's like, "Yeah, you better hurry up, and you got to tell Tyrone as well, because he owns a bit of this garage, I believe." At
this point, I think I would say I've had 4 meetings with you guys now about this in the last 24 hours. I think I was pretty clear. At the end of the day, I want the business, I want the garage. I don't need to keep having meetings. Why does my secretary keep scheduling you in? Tell her not to take your calls anymore.
I just want to know why Ray's spending so much time on the street anyway, considering he's got this vast hotel empire. He doesn't seem to leave the place now.
It does seem very odd, doesn't it?
Anyway, Tyrone gets told from Kevin then. Kevin's like, "You know what, I messed up, Tyrone."
This was painful.
It really was. He kind of had to awkwardly tell him and say, "Yeah, I've got to sell the garage to her. I've got on his bad side. If I don't sell it to him by closing, me and Abby are going to go to prison." And Ty is absolutely livid about this and says, "Ray's going to cause the business to go up in smoke. We'll be out of our jobs. How could you do this, Kevin? How could you be so stupid?" And Kevin says, "It's because I love Abby."
Which is like a
sweet moment. That was interesting as well, because earlier on in the week, Jack had asked Kevin, "Do you love her?" And I think he hadn't really thought about it like this until that point. And by the time we got to here, he's kind of mulled it over in his head and think, "Yeah, you know what, I kind of do."
Well, he only tells Tyrone at this point.
Yeah, exactly. He tries to offer Tyrone a bigger share of the business. He tries to say, and he says, "Look, I'll even sell the whole thing to you, but please let us go." Please let us do it. But Tyrone's he is absolutely fuming about this. Meanwhile, Abby's over at the cab office with Eileen and telling her everything, and by everything we mean everything, the hotel and everything.
She's loving it.
And Eileen's like, "Bloody hell, they did that with Phelan's storyline. I can't believe that they're doing it again." What? Coronation Street, come on, writers, get some new ideas.
No, I like this because it was a twist.
Eileen just happens to mention that this was similar to the Phelan storyline, and Kevin was totally cool with the fact that Anna went to Phelan to try and save her family from being blackmailed after Gary planked him.
Unfortunately,
But
slightly misleading.
Yeah, she neglected to mention that this was a fair amount of time before Kevin and Anna were actually going out. So Abby goes back home thinking, oh, it's fine, Kevin's going to be cool with her.
Kevin likes running his birds out to random villains.
Yeah, but she goes back to confess, but it's too late because he's already sold the business at this point.
No,
And
she turns
Tyrone
up
is
right at the deal.
She does.
Dad.
Tyrone is looking daggers at her.
Oh.
As Ray leaves, as I say, he just ups the ante again and says, well, thanks, I got what I wanted here. And by the way, Kevin, Abby offered to sleep with me to stop me going to the police. So,
bugger.
So she did it all for naught.
I was just literally about to tell you this, and unfortunately it sounds very weak.
Yeah. And she's saying at the end of the episode, well, but what about Phelan when he slept with Anna? And Kevin's like,
it's not even relevant.
She was getting out with Owen then, not even me.
She didn't cheat on me.
He storms out, she's left sobbing, and the storyline picked up, but not very much on Friday, although it did quickly. The relationship was in a very different place at the end of Friday's episode than it was on Wednesday, thanks to a little bit of engineering by Sally, who thinks is totally on Team Abby on this. She's like, look what Abby's done to you, for you, Kevin. She lowered herself so much. She let her guard down, all to protect.
Yeah.
To try and protect you.
I made her a pizza.
And then when she finds Abby later, she basically engineers a situation so whereby at the end of the episode, Kevin comes round with flowers, and he and Abby have a meal together, and it gets kind of there's a whole whirlwind of emotions that goes on, shall we say. Abby's getting very upset about it all, but when Kevin tells her that he loves her, she's somewhat taken aback and quite happy about it as well, and there's real lovely kind of look of very, very nicely acted, Sally.
At last, a man.
Yeah, and I was kind of while this was going on, I was still, to be honest, reeling over the whole Geoff and the chicken stuff. So I maybe missed some of the key details in this scene, but it seems to me that they are on relationship status.
I was really
ready for next week.
So enthralled by the Geoff and Yasmin storyline today that I really missed a lot of this and the Adam and Sarah stuff.
Yeah, I know.
I'm gonna plead ignorance on that because I'm not interested.
We'll remind ourselves in a minute. So first off, Gemma, how much did you mind that this was
not at all
a fat Pat Phelan rip-off, as people on the internet? I wish I hadn't even
said it on Twitter now. I just said it as a joke. But the thing is, though, this kind of stuff happens on soaps all the time. You can't get mad about things like this happening. This is like a pretty standard soapy sort of thing.
I didn't mind at all.
Didn't bother me.
I can see why people did mind, because it was very, very similar. And I'm glad in a way that on Wednesday's episode they referenced the Pat thing, because if they'd have gone the whole week and nobody had even mentioned, hang on a minute, this is exactly the same as Anna and Phelan, it would have been a bit of a surprise. But I didn't mind, because to be honest, by the time this happened on Monday, I was already getting the feeling that, this is a bit of a better week on Coronation Street this week, actually. And then this comes along and it's like, this reminds me of Pat Phelan. And because I love the Phelan storyline so much, it just took me back. It made me... It wasn't like, it didn't make me think, Coronation Street was so much better 3-4 years ago. It's like, I'm getting the same kind of feelings here as I was during the Pat thing, and I'm liking it because I'm cruel and evil and masochistic.
We don't watch soaps to have everybody rubbing on nicely with each other.
Not all the time.
There's a whole decade of that, if you want to watch that happen, in the 1960s.
Do you think that Abby was right to go to the hotel, as Sally was kind of hinting at on today's episode, or would you have told her, no, don't do it, it's not worth, even for the mad situation that you're in?
It's really easy to sit here and go, oh wow, boring soap blackmail storyline. They're all so stupid. Why do they always just go along with the blackmail? It's obvious. In real life, you'd say, no, I won't, because you know that you're gonna. They're always going to have the thing to hold over you, and if you went to the police, they'd immediately believe everything you said, and I don't know if it's that easy. Like in real life, if you genuinely thought, and also, as gross as this is, I know that Abby doesn't want to sleep with him, but they had been in a relationship previously. It's not like the same thing as what happened with Anna and Pat.
No.
I mean...
Would you have said that would have counted as rape if
Yeah,
Ray
because she
had
didn't
had
wanna
his
do
way
it.
with yeah? So,
Michael,
but then
it's
would
really
he have
simple.
put himself into a bad? Would he have then put himself into a corner if he had gone through with it? Because she would have said, "Well, if you're gonna show them the dash cam evidence, I'm going to tell them you raped me." So they would have been a bit stalemate with the whole
think that's a
situation. I know that they're not equal, but
Michael,
she could have still got him
unfortunately,
into trouble.
Bless your heart, though.
Thanks.
Unfortunately, it is not as easy as every time a woman is raped, she goes to the police and says, "Guys, I was raped," and the police go, "Goodness gracious, let's just put the guy in prison immediately." It's not how it works.
I guess so.
The question of consent is also incredibly simple. Does the woman want to sleep with the man? Or indeed any person want to sleep with the other person that wants to sleep with them? If the answer is no, even if they do it anyway, it's still rape because they didn't want to do it. Also, and the reason why people get confused is because women are weaker than men physically, and oftentimes it is less dangerous physically and the less violence involved if the woman just goes along with what is being forced upon her. That's the sad truth of the matter, that women know that we can't fight back a lot of the time, and if we tried, we'd probably get murdered.
Yeah. If she had gone through with it, and I know it seems that he had no intention of going through it, and like you said earlier, I thought it was a really, really good twist that he didn't go through with it.
I don't know whether Ray decided...
I don't think he was ever going to do it. Okay. I really, really don't. Because he finds it more fun to play. He's like a cat with a mouse, isn't he?
Yeah.
If she had gone through it, then it had been ever slightly different, though. Do you think that Kevin would have ever been able to forgive her? Is the fact that she didn't, and I know it's not through because of a choice that she made, it was because of what he made, does that help him to, lower his guard and make up with her on Friday? Would he have said, "No, I cannot, I can't go out with you now. I can't be because of knowing what you did"?
Oof, that's a difficult question. Because the thing is, though, it's not like she wanted to cheat on him. She was literally sacrificing herself and her bodily autonomy for him and his kid. Like she said several times before that she's mostly concerned about Kevin. Yeah. And she wishes she hadn't dragged him into it, and that's really the dilemma that we're seeing here. Because if either of them had been involved in this separately, there would be no dilemma. But because they've involved each other in it now, I think.
I mean, Owen and Anna didn't survive, did they? After
remind me what the question was.
I can't even remember now. If Abby had slept with Ray, would Kevin have ever forgiven her?
Oh, if she had slept with him?
Yes. In the same way that he forgave her by the end of tonight's episode.
He'd have to, wouldn't he? But he'd have to.
because she was doing it for him.
Because she was
just
raped.
saying that Owen and Anna didn't manage to get through.
I know, but Owen was never depicted as a nice guy, and I don't know what Coronation Street actually thinks they're doing with Kevin, but as far as I know, not from what I've seen, Kevin is supposed to be a nice guy, even though he's acted like an absolute arsehole to her for the last 3 months or whatever. He's supposed to be a nice guy. So you'd hope that he would understand that she was raped and she's the victim, not him.
I would hope so, but he is a bit cavemanish, isn't he?
Yeah, he is.
It's black and white with him. He might need a bit of explaining.
I don't know.
Womansplaining.
I'm sure that Eileen and Sally could knock his head against the wall.
Do you think that Kevin kind of... What do you think about the fact that he went through with this collusion and false alibis and everything with...
collusion's made a return.
With Jack being on the scene, because that was a point that was made on the episodes as well, wasn't it? That you shouldn't have done this. You're responsible for Jack, and you were pretty much putting Abby in front of Jack's potential safety by lying to the police.
What's the question?
Well, you're not listening to me this evening.
I'm trying to find out who wrote today's episode.
I think it was Ellen Taylor that wrote tonight's episode. She definitely wrote the first one. I don't know if she wrote the second one either. Should Jack have been more responsible and not given that false alibi?
Kevin.
Because he had Jack at home. and Jack does not have a mum.
I'm
so
sorry, Jack's
he
a red herring here. This is the first time anyone's cared about Jack for months.
True. And maybe we said on whenever it was, Monday or Wednesday, I'm not surprised if Ray didn't set up Jack being bullied just to make Abby see.
Twist the knife.
Yeah, or just to twist the knife, and also make Abby see, you know what, I really must go into the hotel with Ray.
Point out that Kevin has gone to prison before for punching a guy when he punched
John Stape, didn't he?
Because he slept with Rosie. So he wasn't worried. I mean, he was obviously defending his daughter's honour, but he didn't stop to think about the long-term ramifications of what would happen if he punched,
you're right, it's a very Kevin move.
Teacher in the street in front of everybody when he had a wife and 2 kids to look after.
Yeah, punch first, think later is Kevin's motto.
And also, I think they were saying he was going to be inside for a few months.
It was like 8-9 months.
Kevin's been inside for that long before. He'll be fine.
Finally, what do you think the future for the garage is? I mean,
I'm really confused about all of this. I don't understand what Ray's doing. Does he think that Weatherfield is like a Monopoly board and he's just going around collecting all the... Like, he's got that square now. Now he just needs the cabin.
I wonder what colour Coronation Street would be on the Monopoly board.
No, but what colour is that corner with the bistro, the arches...
Viaduct Street?
Well, no, because
when it's gone up in the world,
isn't he? Because he's got the garage as well. He's got the arches, the garage. He just needs to get the cabin. I'm going to say that bit is green.
Yeah, and Victoria Court is the Mayfair of of Weatherfield.
Next thing you know, he's going to be after Tattle Do Nicely, the pool hall,
the co-op,
and the co-op.
Do you think that he is planning to keep it as a garage? Because he could very easily say, "Oh, I don't want this anymore. I want to knock a whole thing down and build a new multi-storey hotel there." What are you going to do about it?
To expand into the arches, so Gary's going to get annoyed about this. There's really... Tyrone pointed this out, I think. There's nothing to stop him from buying the garage and then evicting them or raising the rent. I really, really can't believe that Kevin would be so stupid as to do this.
And Tyrone, he gave in very quickly as well. I mean, he was doing it because he had no choice, and in a way, he did. But he's like, I'm sticking with you, Kevin, and I'm not happy about this. But you're my mate, and we're going to... I don't know whether he took Kevin's offer of, a bigger chunk of the business or anything.
I can't believe they would be so stupid as to do this, but it's possible that they have just signed a document that just literally transfers the deeds from one person to another. If they didn't have any clauses in there about things, then they're stupid and they kind of deserve to have their business taken away from them, because all they'd have to do is say, right, Ray, you want to buy this business, you said that we can keep the garage in there, then you're not going to mind signing a document to that effect.
I mean, would it be beyond Ray to just burn the whole thing down and then claim on the insurance
I think that's
money?
what Kevin should do.
Maybe. Right, Gemma.
Get bloody Abby to do it. She's the pyromaniac.
Very true. Get Hope to do it. Abby and Hope together, raise it to the ground. Gemma, let's move on to the Sarah Lou, Bethany, Daniel stuff, because thinking about how much time we got to record this episode, we got to move on. So, something old, something new, something Scottish, and Sarah Lou. What's been going on with the Platts this week?
I think that the podcast would go faster if the storyline titles weren't so long. On Monday, they're preparing for the wedding of the century. Sarah and Bethany are going over seating plans. It's quite funny because they're talking about, you can't put Tracy, blah, 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 talking about...
Everybody on the street hates at least 5 other people.
Yeah.
It's like a logic puzzle, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good board game, isn't it?
Yeah.
At the end of the game, you have to have put together the perfect seating plan for a Coronation Street wedding.
There you go. Put it up together for the 60th.
Bethany is annoyed because she keeps applying for restaurant jobs and she keeps getting turned down and she's got to pay her rent. I don't know why she thinks that a restaurant job she gets now is going to pay her rent for next week, but...
I don't know how these things work.
Maybe she probably gets really good tips.
Cash in hand?
Really good tips.
Right.
Bethany is getting the impression that Ray has had her blacklisted because she keeps applying and she keeps getting turned down.
We don't get to find out whether that's definitely true, but I think he is.
Really
we know that he's very petty about it, and he's getting back at Abby in this way and Bethany in this way.
Well, it makes sense that she hasn't escaped his ire, because it does seem as though he's fixated solely on Abby, and she wasn't even the main one who's involved in trying to take him down.
But equally, as I saw somebody on the internet saying earlier, maybe the fact that she glassed somebody in the face while she was working in the exotic dancing lounge a few years ago, maybe that's something about It might
And
get her on the
also,
blacklisted.
the fact that she's quite willing to go online and write a bunch of unsubstantiated
slagging off her bosses,
things about her employer that haven't been proven in court yet.
Yeah.
Could also be a bit of a big red flag.
Yeah, but no, I think we are supposed to believe it's real. Although it could be a bit of a red herring, and maybe it's not. Maybe she's going to go out there and...
Maybe she's just really rubbish at CVs.
Well, she's fine by the end of the week. No, she is an excellent writer, Gemma.
No, maybe she
question.
just like... Maybe she just puts it... She just, on a piece of paper, she just draws a big arrow pointing at her in red crayon, and she just puts it on her desk and winks at them.
Does a little sexy dance with her hands in the air.
Okay, stop distracting me because I'm trying to do this. Sarah says, well, listen, why don't you get a temporary place here at Underworld with me? It's not much, but it's a job. It will tide you over. She says, oh, what, working alongside Sinead's family and friends? Oh, well, I guess I'll do it. Why not? I've jumped in her bed, I might as well jump in her job.
She asks for Daniel's permission first, doesn't she? Because she...
Wait, so do you have a problem? And he says, no, go for it. So Sarah tells Beth about the fact that she's hired Bethany. She brings her over and she's sort of like when you get two cats and you kind of introduce them to each other and, and then you sort of run away and let them fight. I don't think that's how you're supposed to do it, Sarah. But anyway, she leaves them off together.
Gave Beth something to smell of Bethany's first, just to get her used to the scent.
No, she put Beth in a little cage and she let Bethany walk around and smell things.
I wish somebody would put Beth in a cage sometime.
So Sarah goes.
Take her off to the cattery. That's where she belongs.
And Beth gets all sarky and saying, oh, now you've got Sinead's job, you've got a man, what next? Her son. And then she says, stop trying to steal Sinead's life, which now I say it, I'm impressed that she managed to get that line out without all over it, because that's pretty difficult.
Well, maybe she hadn't had a couple of ciders before she said that.
It's perfectly possible that she didn't turn
That's
up
not to operate sewing machinery. You know, they're all alcoholics on Coronation Street, aren't they? Every lunchtime.
You've got to have a few ales to sup at lunchtime, Michael, otherwise what's the point? On Wednesday, Bethany's writing course results are coming today, and Daniel says, doesn't matter what happens, I will stick with you either way. At work, Sarah realises that Beth has been using the wrong material for an order. She's been using far too expensive material. I would have thought it wouldn't make any difference whether it's expensive or not. If it's the wrong material for the job, it's still wrong, isn't it? So she says, Bethany says, oh, sorry, Mum, that was my fault. I got confused and thought that was the right stuff. And Sarah's like, okay, fine. I'm sorry, Beth. It's not your fault. Let me show you the right material. Please don't do that again, Bethany. And then, so Bethany's covered for Beth. So Beth then says to Bethany, look, I know you covered for me, but we're never going to be mates, so you can do one.
Oh, no. I really wanted to be mates with you, Beth.
Oh, I thought you were in the book club, but I don't even think you are, so I don't care. Alia tells Daniel to grab happiness while he can. I don't care what anyone thinks. Don't know why anyone cares what she thinks, but apparently...
And this is how Geoff's going to get away with what he's doing, because nobody cares what Alia thinks.
Sorry, Alia, blah, 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 I was talking here. Bethany tells Sarah she's been turned down, but somehow...
The writer's course.
For the writer's course. The people who run this writer's course care enough about her to get her an internship.
Because she's not got the qualifications or something?
At a London magazine. I don't
She's a really good writer.
She can't be that... Okay, well...
Gemma, you are our resident expert and journalist.
No, I'm not.
You work in the magazine industry.
I've already been put in my place
What's your hot take on this?
I've already been put in my place once about saying things about stuff I don't understand, so what do you mean?
Have you?
Yeah, you know I have.
It seemed to me a little unrealistic that Bethany's writing is so good that she would be snapped up by a London magazine.
It really does depend on what kind of internship you're talking about, because they'll take anybody who is willing to work for free for an extended period of time, especially in London. One of my friends, when I was at university doing my English degree, when she finished, she got a job working as a temp. No, not temp. That's an intern, I think, at... I can't remember which magazine, but it was one of those staple-bound fashion magazines. So it wasn't like a proper high-end one, but it, like Grazia or something. And she said they were all just horrible bitches to her, and they just made her take clothes back to shops all day long, and she didn't actually do any writing at all. She literally spent the whole 2 weeks carting clothes around London and returning them to shops. I
think that if a magazine industry is made up of horrible bitches, then Bethany could fit right well in there at the moment.
I think Beth could be the editor. Yeah, so anyway, I don't know. At the end
Did they
of the
say
day,
what the magazine was?
No, they
that
never.
Bethany's
No,
been
of course
offered
they
to-
didn't, because it doesn't exist.
Yeah, but they could have made it up. It could have been Aya magazine or
I
something.
know. I wanted it to be a magazine.
Maybe I don't think they did.
No, they didn't.
It's weird that nobody would have mentioned it.
No,
but-
I don't think it matters. Just say it was Heat, even though it doesn't exist anymore.
Groomed Blondes magazine.
Michael. I hope they're talking about horses. Sarah consents that she is worried about the fact that this internship is going to take her away from Daniel for 6 months. So she says, look, this offer is too good to turn down. You've not got on the course, but you've been given this golden opportunity. And Sarah is more right than she probably even knows. Having experience and contacts is more important.
Yes, it's about who you know.
It really is about who you know when it comes to writing. You need to get your foot in the door and get people's attentions. And if you can do that, if you've got the chance, do it. When somebody comes to me and, like, number one, I'll get referred people more than anything else for writers. And number two, if you come to me and you go, here's my CV, I'll say, have you got an example of your work? And I won't even read your CV, because what's the point? I don't care whether you've got a qualification in something. I care about whether you can spell and punctuate and write a coherent sentence.
Although, haven't they said that Bethany's accuracy isn't her strong suit? Daniel
What do you
said.
mean accuracy?
As in accuracy in spelling and punctuation.
Well,
and
then
everything.
she wouldn't get in. She wouldn't
But
get a job with me.
She's got the passion.
That doesn't mean anything. Lots of people have got passion. Have you seen Twitter? It's full of illiterate morons shouting all day long.
Maybe
doesn't mean they get an
maybe it's
internship.
Twitter the magazine that Bethany. Maybe they're branching out into the paper.
just print all the tweets from a day. Tell you what, people would read it.
That could be like a new freebie on
Free
on the
magazine.
underground.
Well, it is true. People love it, don't they? Whenever anything horrible happens, it's always like, and here's a tweet from the Prime Minister. Oh, hashtag thoughts and prayers.
It'd be good because
cares?
when you're on the London Underground, you can't get the internet on your phone, can you? So you can't just scroll Twitter. But if they printed all the most
Or
business opportunity,
or perhaps go proper old school and Shakespearean style and have a man just kind of like proclaim all the tweets at the end of each carriage. At Boris Johnson, you are a stupid man. Anyway, Sarah says, Bethany, you have to go. You need to put yourself before Daniel. Bethany says, no, Daniel needs me. What an idiot. Bethany and Daniel meet up in the pub, and Daniel, I tell you what, he's right down on her, isn't he? She looks miserable, and he immediately says, you didn't get on the course. But I really think that he all along thought she wouldn't get on the course, because he's been very negative about her chances.
Has he?
He's been priming her for failure. Like, it doesn't matter if you don't get on the course. Don't worry about it.
I kind of got the impression that he thought that sun shone out of her arse.
I know he thinks the sun shines out of her arse. I mean, she's good at writing.
He even sent off her application form without even.
But I think he wants to be supportive, but he doesn't want. Deep down, he doesn't want to let go of her.
Now that's the most important thing.
And his ego can't. I also don't think his ego could probably cope that well with knowing that she's going off to do something he wants to do, and he's left there with a dead wife and a baby. Anyway, so he
puts his arm round her to comfort her, doesn't he?
And then Peter says, "Oh, Daniel, maybe you shouldn't be touching up your girlfriend in the middle of the pub when everyone's still mad about all the dead wife things." And Daniel's like, I don't care. They need to do one.
I'm with Bethany now. Everyone accept that.
We know that. They go home. Daniel's mad. He says, I'm glad you didn't go on the course. You know what? Because I'd miss you. And she's like, oh, I was going to tell you something. Don't worry about it. She goes back home to Sarah, says, I'm turning it down. Daniel doesn't know, so don't tell him. That secret will not remain a secret for very long. On Friday, Bethany comes over to the flat and Daniel says, don't give up writing. You're still really great at it. God. I just hate the thought that...
What?
I don't understand. Like, Bethany's writing just seems to consist of going on the internet and slagging people off.
No, she speaks passionately about the harrowing experience she had at the hands of evil Nathan and evil Ray. She's very good at exposing people.
I know, it's not like she's just slagging off randoms, but
she needs to find out what Geoff's been doing.
She should write an article
about...
about
a great blog post about him.
Pandas or something. At work, Bethany says to Sarah, can you please make my job placement permanent? And Sarah says, no, You're not going to work in a factory. You're better than that.
I thought that it felt like she was embracing Annie Walker at this point, because we just watched an episode from the 60s where Annie was horrified that Lucille Hewitt would get a job at the soon-to-be open PVC factory, because she'd been slagging off the lower class oiks, one of which was Bet Lynch, who'd just come into the pub earlier.
To buy
first
pies.
Appearance. Yeah.
Oh, I want you to eat one of them pies.
But yeah, Sarah says, you're better than working at a factory. You could be the next J.K. Rowling.
J.K. Rowling didn't just write, like, how many books? She wrote 7 books slagging off Voldemort. There was also a plot. Daniel finds out about the London job offer from Adam. I don't think we find out how Adam knows, but I think it's obvious that Adam and Sarah have had a conversation at some point about the fact that she's got a stupid daughter. And Adam's like, I really don't want to be related to her. Can we unadopt her or something when we get married? He goes storming around to the factory in the middle of work.
That happens all the time.
To say, why didn't you tell me about this? And for some reason, Sarah says, I'll leave you two alone. I'd be like, can you get out of my office? I actually do business in here. Mm.
He says,
well, why don't I come to London with you? We don't need to be apart. I'll bring Bertie, it'll be fine. It'll be like a fun extended picnic. Then we get I think this was really sweet, a very short scene in which Beth and Kirk are sitting in Victoria Gardens with Bertie, and she is crying, and she says, I feel happy and sad at the same time because I miss Sinead so much, but Bertie's the only thing that's keeping me going. And when I look at Bertie, I see Sinead. This is just to get our heartstrings primed for Daniel to stomp all over them later on. She said he's the only thing that's getting her through all this. Daniel sees Adam later. This is also the same day as their hen and stag do for the wedding.
For added drama.
And says, I'm going to London with Bethany. And Adam says, look, you're crazy. Everyone's going to go nuts. Then, as they're having this conversation, Beth comes in, right in the middle of Daniel saying, I don't care whether they find out or not, or something along those lines. And she gets really upset. She tells him exactly what she thinks of it. What did she say? I've forgotten. You're a stupid man.
Basically, yeah.
Your beard is weird.
Classic Beth.
I don't like you. You've got weird face.
Yeah.
And I don't like you.
Go punch a wall.
Yeah. I'm leaving. Storms off. Daniel says to Adam, this is why I'm going. Crazy bitches like this keep coming to my house and telling me off for having it on the side with Bethany. And you know what? She's really great. Mm. So the stag and the hen do's kick off. Are we going to have any conversations about this part of the story?
We could do it now if you like. There's not a whole lot to say about them. We got to see Imran and Toya make an appearance. I don't know although Toya got 1 or 2 lines. I think Imran had to stay quiet in his lovely mustard polo shirt that he was wearing today. We got to see a bit of karaoke in the Rovers with, Gail and Audrey. We were teased the possibility of Kathy and Jenny doing a duet as well, but we didn't get to see it. There's also David and Nick that are having a quiet moment of contemplation because David's realised it's been 6 weeks since Shona was carted off, and it's about time that their story came back on the rotation again. So maybe we'll see a bit about that next week.
He was saying, in the spirit of current opinions about marriage on the street, that it's about time he was wed again. Been 6 weeks since my wife left. So anyway, that's the stag and hen do. The stag was at Speed Dial.
And the hen was at the Rovers.
Bethany comes in the middle of this do, makes Sarah's night, and then immediately ruins it.
Yeah, she tells Sarah, I've decided that
I am going to go to London after all. And she's like, oh, thank God for that. I'm sick and tired of you being rubbish at work. Congratulations. Beth comes in and points out that Bethany's going to London with Daniel. I think Sarah was hoping that they would make a clean break and they would both realise that this relationship is sort of silly.
Yeah. Going to London alone could be good for Bethany for many reasons.
Well, for a start, I don't understand how they think that Daniel is going to be able to afford rent for him and his baby and his girlfriend in London. Not that it's his responsibility.
He hasn't even got a job at the moment, has he?
They can't... I don't know how they're affording the rent where they are now.
Was there a scene where they were looking at rent prices in London? I think there was, wasn't there? I've not made any notes about that. I think they're realising it's not going to be as easy as
It ain't that easy, buddy.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'd all be doing it, just like we'd all be killing our own chickens in the garden, wouldn't we? My life would be much simpler.
Sarah then storms over to speed dial after this, doesn't she?
Daniel's drunk at this point too, and says, "You're grieving and you're messed up." And Daniel says, "I don't care. I'll do what I want. I'm going to London with my girlfriend."
Yeah, screw you guys.
And then he goes home with Bethany and Daniel have a solidarity hug, not a solitary hug.
I didn't say.
No,
I know. I
know it doesn't say
solidatory. Is that a word?
No. Daniel looks over her shoulder and sees a mantelpiece photo of Sinead.
Yeah, so he's still.
Whoops.
Is it a case of was he thinking, are people right? Am I just using her as a Sinead replacement, or was he thinking, Sinead, are you okay with this? Or
I think that you can read into that whatever you want, and I think a lot of people are reading into this relationship whatever they want, and I think that's fine. A lot of people are seeing this in a very different light to the way I am.
What's your current stance?
I just think that they shouldn't be going out with each other, and I know that people keep saying that they should if it makes them happy, but I just don't think it's making them happy, and I think it's obvious it's not making them happy, and it's clear to me that Daniel is still grieving and he's hallucinating Sinead when he sees Bethany.
Bethany's happy about it.
Or Bethany can't really be okay with being in the shadow of a recently deceased woman who looks exactly like... This is like Rebecca. And also, she's very young, and I applaud anybody who's willing to do this, but she really... she is very young to be taking on another woman's baby at such a young age.
I don't think she's thinking of any of that. I think she's caught up in the romance of it. She's caught up in that I'm saving him. He saved me.
I need to save him. He's wounded. He's damaged. I can fix him.
Yeah, I think it's totally that. And
I tell you what, Bethany, you'll never fix them. They start off the way they are, and they only get worse.
Really, I don't think it is anybody else's business whether they're together or not. But
no, I don't think it is. But
from an outsider's point of view, it seems pretty clear to me that he's making a big mistake. And you're right, he has not got over Sinead.
It's very interesting to me that some this of all the relationships I think we've ever seen, maybe it's because I'm so strident about this and the fact I don't like it, I've never seen so many people saying, well, as long as they're happy, it's none of our business. Because it is our business, because it's a soap.
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
invited to make make judgments,
an opinion, yeah.
And part of the sort of the fun of watching it is to have an opinion about what's happening, because if you had no opinion and felt nothing for any of the action that was taking place, you probably wouldn't be interested in watching it.
I think it's also very easy to be on that side of saying, well, let's get on with it, because you don't want to feel like you're siding with Beth, who's still being very vile.
And we didn't mention, but Craig was very cold to Daniel this week. He came in and he was basically blanking Daniel. He took Bertie away.
He wasn't as vile as Beth.
No, but he basically, Daniel was trying to be chummy and normal with him, and he was like, well, I'm not your friend, Daniel. I'm not doing this for you. I'm doing this for Bertie.
I think what you've said in the past about the fact that they can't replace Sinead, but Daniel kind of can.
Yeah.
Is what's I totally agree with that. They've lost a family member. There's nothing they can do, so no wonder they're still holding on to it. And I know that he loved Sinead and everything, but nobody can take her place in their hearts. It's just so difficult to side with Beth sometimes, because she is nasty, which is why I was glad that the Victoria Garden scene happened, like you said, because that was quite a sweet moment, and I wish we'd see more of that, whereas we don't. I want to see more behind the scenes stuff, but all we get to see of Beth 90% of the time is her happening to walk round the corner at the same time that Bethany and Daniel are having an illicit snog or something, and then she explodes.
I also might be wrong in thinking this, but I seem to think that the opinions about this skew towards the men thinking this is more acceptable than the women do.
You think? I don't know.
And I don't know whether that's true or not, but I do know that in general it has been said that men who are bereaved move on faster than women, because women have a better support network of friends and family, and they can open up more emotionally to those people, and they don't feel like there's a gaping hole in their life that they have to fill immediately. Like you can be very cynical about why a guy would want to immediately replace his wife.
I think that's somebody to cook their tea.
Well, you know, you said it, I didn't. I don't think this is what's going on with Daniel. I also agree when people say you can't put a time limit on when it's acceptable and when it isn't.
Yeah.
But it really is too soon for Daniel. It just is.
I just think it is.
I think it's obvious that the show is trying to tell you.
I was really wondering at the end of Friday's episode whether there's any kind of regrets or doubt or anything. I'm kind of hoping that look to the photo means, hang on a minute, what am I actually doing here? But I guess we will see next week, especially with all the romance of the wedding that's going to be coming up as well. That might make one or the other one think, do I really love this person, or is this just an infatuation? Not that Sarah and Adam are the perfect example of a loving couple. They've only been going out 5 minutes and now they're getting married. And although I'm kind of looking forward to the wedding because I like a good wedding on Corrie, I've got no emotional investment in them whatsoever, and it seems that they've been thrown together for plot reasons, and I can't imagine they're going to stay together for very long. If somebody to say what's good about Sarah and Adam together as a couple, I could tell you nothing.
Both good looking.
I forget they're going out half the time.
I know. I tell you what would be quite, and it's a shame that I don't know, is the baby too young for this? If Bertie saw Bethany and said, Mum.
Oh, yeah.
Mummy. Because...
When do babies start to talk?
Because he's been parked in front of Sinead's videos for all of his life.
Yeah.
Which has been very short and tragic. So he must see blonde, curly curls, and young, pretty face. I don't know how good babies are or what their eyesight's like. For all we know, Bertie could be blind, you know.
I think whether
like
or not...
I am, as in needing glasses. He couldn't, maybe, you know,
I don't think it really matters, but I think that's really good. If he says mama or something to Bethany, that could...
snap them both out of it and make him realise there is a lot more to this than just their relationship. And Bethany is taking on a family, and I don't think she's appreciating that. And I really don't think it's fair either for Daniel to go off with a girl who isn't necessarily prepared for a family.
Yeah, she's not. She's totally not.
She's a baby herself, and so is he, you know.
Yeah. Right, let's go to the other Barlow story then. Looking out for number 1. How long have we got left on the recording? Not long. Right, so...
How long have we got?
I wanted to finish Street Talk within 2 hours, and we're an hour and a half now.
Quick.
So, Peter is pretty shocked at the beginning of Monday's episode because he's seen a for sale sign outside of number 1, and Claudia's there saying, well, yep, Ken's definitely selling up. I know I said before that he might be just thinking about it, but we're going for it. He is not happy, and Tracy is absolutely livid when she walks past and finds that he's moving out. Because I think they kind of think that Claudia is coercing him out of the street and out of their lives. So Tracy says to Steve, look, Dad's selling this house. I think that we should try buying it. Even better if we can get it at a cut price rate. So Liz finds Steve doing his sums in the cafe later, and she's like, are you sure you want to be doing this? It's not just Tracy making you,
think that you do.
Yeah, and he says that they both do, but I am kind of wondering as the week goes on, is Steve eventually going to drag his heels here and say,
I'm so confused
I don't want to live in that house?
What you're supposed to get out of this storyline, because the whole storyline seems to be it's preposterous to buy a house and live in it and have a mortgage. But this is what everybody does.
I know.
Unless you're renting, and most people who are renting want to change the situation to have a mortgage. But the way this was portrayed, it was like, you want to buy a what? A house? What are you going to do with a house?
Tracy goes up right over to Claudia and makes her an offer. And Claudia doesn't exactly bite her hand off. Does she offer like £15,000 less than the asking price of £20,000, I think? Claudia,
no, not 20,000.
£120,000. It's not that cheap up north.
I'll have it.
Claudia's like, I'll talk to Ken. Ken was very conspicuous by his absence at the beginning of these episodes. I don't know why Claudia was like his estate agent or something. Maybe Bill was a bit unwell or something on those filming days. I don't know. She goes and talks to Peter.
Who does?
Claudia, I think. Or maybe no,
Tracy
Tracy
does.
does. Tracy goes and tells Peter, "I've made an offer on the house. I'm going to buy it."
Scalp the-
Peter's like, "Hang on a
him.
minute, you're trying to rip off our dad. Why don't you go give him the full asking price?
your
Come on,
stupid mouth
he's an old
shut.
man. He's got a load of there's
Bills.
What was it that they called the retirement
room?
home?
Oh,
Shady Waters, or no, it's called
Shady
Still
Hollow.
Waters, something like that. They made him a funny name in that for the retirement home.
That's
anyway,
a pond.
he goes over to Ken later and isn't very happy to find out that Ken's even considering the offer. So he has a massive rant at Carla in the pub saying, "I think that we need to get in there and gazump my sister, make a better offer."
Carla, this woman who has previously owned her own business and her own very swanky flat, who is currently squatting with her elderly friend and his goth niece, who's recently bereaved, talking to her. How old is Peter? In his 50s?
Yes.
Her well established as a man of the world boyfriend, who is also squatting in someone's house, and she doesn't agree that they should probably buy a house together.
I know. Oh, let's not rush things, Peter.
Look, I'm perfectly happy in my camp bed. I know I'm a woman of a certain age, but after a while you start to realise it's all just stuff, and how many bricks do you really need?
He manages to convince her by midway through the week.
It's like they're a bunch of nomadic hippies.
Anyway, Peter goes over and makes a higher offer to Ken. I think he offers the asking price, maybe.
£10 more.
Ken is definitely interested in this. But and then he goes and kind of smarms into the Rovers and tells Tracy, I just offered more than you. So this is brother and sister at war by the end of Monday's episode.
And to all intents and purposes, for the purpose of the storyline, they are being treated as equals, even though actually Peter is Ken's real son and Tracy
is his adopted daughter.
Yes.
Yeah. So Peter...
It's very nice that he's treating them both the same.
It is. I mean, he adopted her fairly young. Peter's still trying to persuade Ken to accept his offer on Wednesday, but meanwhile, Tracy's measuring up the house, measuring up the dresser, because she's like, I'm going to get rid of this.
It's like metaphorically measuring up Ken's coffin.
It is basically, isn't it? She's convinced that she's going to get this place. Carla is still saying that she doesn't want to saddle herself with a mortgage at a place like Number One.
To be fair,
maybe it's not just the mortgage. It's that house. It's a terrace next to a pub. It's not great.
It's not well decorated, but to be fair to her,
it's a
she's working on the idea of getting a mortgage with like sporadic shifts at a cafe. I don't think she's really in a position to walk into a bank and ask for a loan.
You know how I am, Carla Connor.
I used to own the factory, but I gave it away because of
the
stress.
Connor millions. Back at Number One, Tracy and Peter are still trying to one-up each other about this. Adam comes up with an idea, which he shares later in the pub, sealed bids. So
This just seems like a stupid idea.
Peter and Tracy are going to write a number on a bit of paper, stick it in an envelope. Ken's going to open it and go for the highest bidder. Carla says, fine, let's do it. I think I found a way for everybody to get what they want. It's not completely clear what Carla's plan was on Friday.
No,
maybe Geoff was...
Seems to me like she's gone, I've thought of a way of getting out of moving into Number One and sticking it to Tracy at the same time, which is not quite the same thing as everybody gets what they want.
Well, let's see what happens.
Okay.
Tracy brings paint samples round to Steve on Friday to check out, and she's very, very excited about the possibility of getting this house. He's more wary, and he says, well, okay, let's put our sealed bid at £125,000. So maybe
he stresses very clearly to her that they cannot do more.
This is all we've got.
I can only offer £5,000 more than the asking price. There's no way I can go even as high as 30.
So Carla talks to Steve about it and makes out that they're going to be homeless if they don't get the house. I think he's trying.
I don't understand why she does this.
No, because what her plan is. We assume this was her plan because she and Peter gave each other kind of knowing wink wink looks during the sealed bid opening ceremony later. But she's there in the flower shop and she leaves an envelope on the desk, doesn't she? It was like as a bookmark in a book, and then she gets phoned up by Peter, leaves the shop. While she's away, Tracy sneaks a look inside the envelope, and it's a piece of paper with £130,000 on.
No, that's more than we've got.
So I guess it was kind of obvious that Carla wanted Tracy to see this, and it was all a bit of a setup. But we don't see Peter and Carla discussing it, did we? Like,
No.
haha, our plan worked. So the sealed bidding ceremony commences later that evening. Carla's bid is opened first, and yeah, it's £130,000. We wondered at one time that whether Tracy would see that they were going to offer 130, she would offer, £130,000 and 1p, and then Carla would actually offer £130,000 and 2p, and then gazump Tracy. But
no, I thought what she had done was show her this bid for 130 and then actually bid 120, but make it so that Tracy had to pay 135. But actually, no, she just offered 130. But I really don't think she ever had any intention of paying 130, because when she said everyone gets what they want, what she meant was Tracy gets the house and Peter gets to see his dad not get ripped off. But what she's actually done is forced Tracy and Steve to pay a lot more for a house than the market price is worth, and more than they can afford. Because the market price of this house was 120k, and looking online and speaking to people in the Facebook group, that does seem like a fair amount of money. A bit high perhaps, but it is in Media City.
By tram stop, you pointed out the other day. And those Weatherfield folk do like to live next door to a pub.
Well, we're in the south, so it's, to me, buying a house for £120,000 with a staircase inside of it and more than one bedroom seems like a crazy dream or something from 1995. But this is apparently a sort of a sensible figure. If you look at the rates for Manchester, around that area, it is slightly inflated, I think, because of Media City.
Yeah, that's true. Steve has a moan at Tracy back at the flat later for being so sneaky about this, because Tracy's bid is £135,000 now. She changed this without Steve knowing about it, and he's like, we cannot afford this. So he makes her go over to number one to. It seemed like it was to pull out of it, but when Ken's being all sentimental about, this place was where you grew up and it's been your home forever, and
I'm so glad
Amy's
you got
going
it.
to be raised there. I'm happy with how things have turned out. Tracy kind of says, yeah,
good, great, Dad.
That she backs out of backing out, basically. So as things, end this week, Peter and Carla haven't got the flat, and Tracy and Steve might end up having to pay more. Do you? I guess. I think that Carla must have known that Tracy wouldn't be able to afford the higher offer, that then they would have to back out and Ken would have to accept theirs or something.
You think that what?
I think that Carla thought that Tracy was going to see that Carla was offering 130. That would make Tracy offer more than she could afford, and then she would have no choice but to back out, which she was nearly going to do. And then Carla and Peter could swoop in there and take it.
But I don't think Carla wants the place, doesn't want to live there.
I think that Peter's been able to twist her arm.
Listen, the fact that we're not really sure about this tells me this was not explained properly.
I think it was, but it was too complicated for my little brain, and I was more interested in some other stories. Although, to be fair, I did quite enjoy this story. I felt like this was a real breath of fresh air. It feels like a while since there's been a very clear case of, here's a new story, because lots of the other stories that's been going on Coronation Street at the moment have been, here's a long continuation of something that's been going on for a while, and maybe it's turning a bit of a corner, but this felt like something brand new, and I really appreciated it, and I liked how it was a Barlow story. It feels like it's been a while since the Barlows have had a meaty story, so I'm loving this. I hope that this keeps going next week. I assume it will. But
it felt to me like Carla didn't want to live there, and Peter only wanted the house because Tracy was annoying him, and she was trying to rip off their dad.
Well, Steve also doesn't want it, does he?
I don't think that they're going to shed any tears over the fact that their bid was not accepted.
Do you think that there's an option that nobody's going to get it? I was wondering at some point whether Adam was going to gazump the lot of them and say, well, here's my new home for my new beautiful bride next week.
Well, that would be hilarious and brilliant.
I don't think it would be brilliant, because I do think, as a traditionalist, I think that it should be either Peter and Tracy. Who would you prefer to see in there out of, let's assume it's going to be those two. Who do you
Tracy
think
and
deserves
Steve
it more?
by a million miles.
Yeah, I do as well. And
Because Carla and Peter seem to me like they don't appreciate it properly. Carla doesn't, for sure.
Peter would just swan off to Portsmouth the next time he has a bit of a breakdown.
Yeah.
It just feels to me, who knows? It feels to me that Tracy is the deserving heir of this, only because she did grow up there, and they were saying that in the episodes. But having been watching Tracy growing up there on the classic episodes recently on ITV3, it feels kind of nice and it feels right. Whereas Peter was away living in Portsmouth for most of his life. He has spent a bit of time living at Number One, but only as Ken's lodger.
And wasn't it
feels
also
like Tracy
more
deserves it more.
Deirdre's house before as well?
It was Albert Tatlock's house, and then it was Ken's house, and he lived there with Deirdre. But then after they had the affair, Deirdre kicked Ken out.
Then she had Samir.
Yeah, and then Ken came back in, and yeah, so it was Deirdre's house for a long time.
So
and
actually,
during a lot of the 80s, early 90s, it was Deirdre and Tracy. Although Tracy obviously moved out as well.
I think Tracy's got a better
she's got a better sentimental claim to it
because it was her actual mum and her adopted dad, whereas Peter's mum, she's dead.
Yeah, I'm surprised that Peter hasn't played the I'm a real Barlow.
You're not my real sister.
You're just a Langton. But it does feel to me that he does treat her like a sister.
Yeah, I know.
Even though
it's sweet.
Even though he's, 10 years older than her, 10, 15 years older than her, maybe.
I don't know.
It feels like he has accepted her, even though he knows that they've not grown up together. But I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. It's really exciting. And I'm looking forward to seeing Ken and Claudia in the retirement home as well.
Me too.
This is a really bright future, this story, I think.
Shallow waters. Right, let's move on to the quad wrangler story.
A little hard of hearing.
What?
A little hard of hearing, not my best pun of the night.
Back to the audiologist on Monday, who tells them about how they're going to have to put this cochlear implant into poor little Alad's head. It seems quite gruesome, but very necessary.
I don't know how they managed to get this appointment with the audiologist so easily. It's just like, maybe it's just the doctor thing. You know how Dr. Ali stands outside his room and shouts, "Does anyone want an appointment?" Does the audiologist do that? Say, "Does anyone want an appointment?" And nobody can hear the call. But anyway.
Gemma is very wary about this, but the lady's like, "I really recommend that you get this done.
Get your head drilled."
Then she gets upset when she hears Chesney talking to the baby because she says he can't hear her or him, and she kind of worries herself, so she can't sleep because she doesn't want him to wake up and not know where he is. She gets fixated on this idea that because he can't hear, he is adrift in a senseless world and can't understand and feels alone. So Chesney makes her a mobile to hang over the crib with her face on it.
It was a Gem mobile.
And she decides she wants to go to baby senses classes, which is not a census for babies. It is for the senses of the baby, like learning how to sign. So he tells her about this and he signs, "I love you," and she smiles and signs back. Great. This is going in a really positive direction for me if they're going to learn how to use sign language. On Wednesday, they go to this class. Emma and Kathy join her. She thinks it's going to be a disaster. She's got a bit of a inferiority complex about the fact she thinks she's really chavvy, and she's also got 4 kids and she thinks everyone's going to laugh at her. When she gets there, everyone accepts her and she starts to relax a little bit. The class is over, but she realises that Kathy and Emma can't come with her to the next one, and so she's worried again how she's going to cope. The other mums rally around her to help out, and there seems to be 2 standout mums who both seem to be much posher than Gemma, but they're impressed with how well she's coping with 4 babies and tell her how great she is, and she says, "I can't believe she does it 4 times," and she just says the secret is we do it once and then you do it another 3 times. Anyway, they say you should come to baby yoga class with us, and so I don't know where all the money for these classes are coming from, but she goes to they're suing them. So they go on Friday to baby yoga in Speed Dahl. Gemma is wearing a pair of white denim trousers because she didn't quite, usually called jeans, because she didn't quite get the memo about what you're supposed to wear to yoga, aka yoga pants. Some of the other mums are making fun of her, including one of the 2 not mums.
Was it one of the 2?
One of the mums is an evil posh mum and the other one is a nice posh mum, which I think is very progressive for Coronation Street, because usually anyone who's posh is just evil, full stop. No holds barred.
Posh people have feelings too.
Yeah. So she's saying about how she doesn't want to split her pants and her trousers, and then they don't say anything about it, but later on we actually see her sewing her trousers back up, which I thought was really hilarious and subtle. Wanted to point out. She's very positive about this class, and she says to Chesney, the mum's really great. We've got soft play on Friday and we're going to a coffee morning next week. Seems like she's being accepted by this group of mums, but clearly there is trouble afoot because one of them is being a cow.
Yeah, one of them lives in Maudsley Street, which I quite liked.
Yeah, there's this, her character is called Imogen.
Yeah, but before we move on, I know we haven't got too long left on our time, I really appreciated the change in mood of the story this week. Considering we've been moaning about how much Gemma there's been recently, there was just something about it this week that made me soften towards her, and whether it was whether I'm kind of feeling for her and her thinking that he can't hear me, or the fact that they're going with the signing, which is a really lovely step, or the fact that it was just generally feeling nice in the yoga class, and I was feeling sorry for Gemma. I did enjoy this. Maybe it was just the fact that it was in small doses. I don't know. Did you enjoy it too?
Talk about the bailout storyline on Monday. James is excited. He's going to see Danny later because Danny gave him an ominous text saying, I want to talk to you.
James didn't think it was ominous. He thought
no,
it
he's
was
like, I'm going to see my boyfriend.
for shagging.
Danny comes over and he basically says, look, James, I can't deal with this. I don't want to have to go back in the closet, because James's career means that they're going to have to hide their relationship. And so he says, you're dumped. James says, look, I'll come out officially. And Danny says, look, it's not worth it. I know that you're going to have to go through so much anger and abuse, but I'm not prepared to make you go through it. And James hears in what he's saying his dad's words and recognises that Ed's been pouring poison in his ear. Ed walks in as this is happening and realises that he has done something wrong, doesn't quite get what it is until James has a go at him for making Danny dump him. Ed's like, I had nothing to do with this. I just he just dumped you. It's not my fault. James says, well, you're going to have to watch me grow up lonely and unhappy, and I'll hate you for it.
The end.
Yeah.
It seemed a bit pointless having this on Monday. I thought that maybe they could have done all of this on Friday.
I feel like we don't have enough time to really get into anything deeper with that, but
it'll come back again at some point.
Well, there will be plenty of opportunity for us to talk about that in a later episode. So, Michael, what are you going to give this episode out of 5?
What, the week out of 5?
Sorry, yeah.
I really did enjoy this week. I'm not going to say it was a super strong week, but vast improvement.
Ended with a...
It really did with all the Geoff stuff. It was vastly better. I'm going to give this 2.5. No, sorry, Alia wrote that down. 3.5.
Right.
3.5 non sequiturs out of 5.
Because you know what, Geoff might be a monster, but he's really great at puns.
He is.
And once he inevitably leaves Coronation Street by being murdered by Yasmin, he can get a job here any day. I'm going to give... I don't know. I want to give it 3.75, but no, I can't.
You cannot.
I'm going to give it a high 3.5.
Yeah, mine is a high 3.5. Definitely.
I'm going to give it... what did I say? 3.5 partners, fathers, partners, because that is Claudia's claim to fame. Who's your character of the week?
I don't know. I need to choose really quickly. I kind of want to say Geoff because of how much I enjoyed what he brought to the week on Friday, but I can't really.
The scum and villainy.
And maybe Abby, and maybe Tracy I enjoyed watching. There were lots of characters that I enjoyed watching this week. Maybe I'll go for Yasmin. Okay. Just because I love her.
I'm going to give it to Geoff because I have in the past, as we all know, quite infamously given it to the pedo van man. So I can't really claim any high ground here and I don't bestow character awards on people for good behaviour.
No. So
the fact that Geoff managed to bamboozle Yasmin into not quite knowing whether he was wrong to kill her chicken or not. I mean, I think by Monday she would have convinced herself that he was perfectly right to have killed the chicken for their dinner.
Sad thing.
Evil bastard.
Yes.